My name's Rogan. I'm an addict. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. Big deal, huh? Anyway, it's really an honor to be here, and I'm grateful that somewhere out of the blue that I was asked to come and share a little bit on this topic. Spirituality, every convention I go to, I go and sit in on a spirituality workshop. I'm always interested in what someone else has to share about this because I've never seen a real definition of it. I've never seen someone said this is what spirituality is. I've heard a lot of people talk about it. A lot of people maybe talk around it, and maybe that's what I'll have to do this morning is talk around it because really it's something I think that we feel inside. It's something that we live. It's something that comes to reflect in our lives through practicing the principles of this program. Real simply, what I conceive spirituality to be is my communication with God and God's communication with me. It's that rapport. It's that knowing that He's listening to me and knowing that when I'm willing and attentive that I can listen to Him and everything is going to be all right. The communication with God and then the understanding that God can work through me in ways far more powerful and unimaginable than I ever realized if I allow Him to do that. You know, my dilemma, I'll speak for myself, my dilemma when I came into this program was that I had a lack of power. You know, I was powerless. I had drugs and dope and all kinds of situations that were beating me up in my life. And I felt like I tried to gain control for so many years and never had it. I had a lack of power. When I came into this program, you all told me that we have a higher power. You can find that higher power. You can find one of your own understanding, one that will work with you and that you can work with to change your life. That's what I'm finding today. This power within me, the power within these groups, the power that exists within this program to change my life because I could never do it on my own. The higher power that I've found is the answer for me today in all situations. So my communication, finding a higher power, and then the third thing is realizing that I have a choice in every situation that comes up in my life. I don't have to use today. I don't want to use today. I don't have to be mean to someone today if I maybe stop and pray for a second. I don't have to judge someone today if I stop and take a look at myself first. You know, I don't have to react the ways I used to react. That choice is very important because I believe that when it comes down to it, God's never going to do it for me, but He's going to allow me to stand there and think about it, and if I call on Him, He's going to give me the strength to get through any situation. You know, I was trying to think back to when I first came into this program. Spirituality back then to me was something, miracles, you know, things that were happening. I mean, the biggest miracle that happened was that I found this program and that I didn't want to use for a day at a time in the beginning. But everything was on such a bigger scale back then. You know, and as we continue in our recovery, it gets to be a little bit more subtle, is the way I see it. But one of the first dilemmas I found myself in, I'd left Nashville, Tennessee had to go back down to Miami for some business, some legal business. And but you know, I'd been out of a rehab center for a few days, and I'd found myself, we were looking in the paper, and I saw, hey, this is going to be this big concert at the Orange Bowl, and you know, like any good addict, I said, man, let's go to this concert, you know. And I found myself standing outside the Orange Bowl about 6 o'clock in the afternoon. We'd been out at the beach all day, and I was tired, and I was hungry. I hadn't eaten, and I said, well, let's go for it. And they were, you know, they hadn't opened the gates, and there were, you know, 80,000 people standing outside this Orange Bowl, and they had like a flea market set up there, but it was a flea market of drugs. I mean, you'd never seen so much stuff. It was everywhere. And it hadn't been that long. It'd only been really a matter of days, weeks that I'd used since I last used. One thing I always found the excuse about using was if I was hungry, I always liked to use because that sort of took off that little edge there for being hungry. And I was standing there, and there were all these guys selling this stuff, and my drug of choice. And I was with my girlfriend. I was wanting so badly just to walk up there and just say, yeah, I'll take one of those. And finally, I mean, it got to be that overwhelming desire where that feeling was running up my back, my stomach was in knots, and I was going, I'm going to do it. Because I said, I only got 30-something days, no big deal. I can go back and get to the meeting and clean up later. But so I stopped. And I'm surrounded by thousands of people. People behind me, people in front of me, everybody around me, people just going wild. And I said, God, I don't have the power. I don't have the willingness not to use right now. I want to use. I'm starving. I need something. And there was no place to get anything to eat. And I just stopped and said that quick little prayer. And so I was making a move for this guy. And the next thing I know, some guy comes up and taps me on the back. And he's got these 2 big hamburgers in his hand. He said, man, you want these hamburgers? And I looked around. I mean, here I am standing in a crowd of these people. This guy's got these hamburgers and gave them to me. Man, it was like manna from heaven, I'm telling you. I ate those hamburgers, and that was the last time I ever had that overwhelming desire to use. And I walked in that place and enjoyed the concert, and I learned a little bit about that. Probably didn't need to be there right then, but... Now, that's on a grand scale. To me, that was about as grand a miracle as one of the things that's ever happened in my life, because, it was at that point that God made himself real to me. Now, it doesn't always happen on that kind of scale, but, the principles that we talk about, the principles that are in our book, principles such as unselfishness and love, honesty, integrity, kindness. These principles are the things that I have found that I have to try to practice on a small scale, every day, every little moment of the day. Every time something comes up, I have a choice. If I've got a problem, if I got something bugging me, I've got a choice to pull one of these little principles that y'all have taught me about out of my pocket and say, I want to apply it here. And what I've found is along the way, when I have chosen to do this, that it's just been like a little step, but I have made great strides in becoming more spiritual and understanding how God works, in understanding that those are the little tools that God uses to change me. When I'm practicing this kindness, this unselfishness, this support of the people that I know, I'm hearing God. I'm hearing him talk to me. I know he's standing there. When I choose to go off and to be the resentful, angry, fearful person that I was before I came in here, it's hard to hear God. It's hard to hear his voice. It's hard to even know he's there. Another one that I think is very the principle that has changed the way I look at life now is faith. And that's following or obeying or trying to do God's will in my life when I don't really see him, when I don't get a letter in the mailbox from him, when I don't hear a voice laying in bed. It's believing that there's a change and a power, and a miracle going on in my life when I don't see it. Now, when I look back, a few years ago, and I look at some of the things I struggled through, I was going, that's no big deal now. But at the time, it was a giant deal. And I heard y'all say, just have some faith. God's working when you don't know he's working. And so when I look back, I see that he was working. And I got through it. And everything's okay. But at that time, if I had freaked out and said, oh, this not working, I don't hear him, I don't understand what's going on, man, I'd lost the whole deal. So as I continue to try to grow in this recovery and to change my ideas and attitudes, I see it's these simple little principles, the simple little tools that at the moments that are the hardest for me to deal with, if I can pull one of those out, then I'm hearing God and he's talking to me. thinking positive thoughts, thinking good thoughts, thinking that the best is coming my way, knowing that God's working in my life. The thinking part of it. I mean, I tell you, my mind is powerful. It's powerful. It's played tricks on me all my life. But one of the ways that I've been taught in this program to use it is to think positive. You know, if my sponsor shared with me a number of times, he says, you know, if you're going to project about something, why not project something good? You know, instead of projecting, oh my God, it's going to fall in on me, you know, project, hey, I'm coming out on top. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to grow. And I tell you, folks, the simplest thing I found is that when I think positive, project positive, it usually brings the positive. You know, if I'm running around all day, and I do sometimes, I guarantee you, worried, scared, going, oh, it's not going to work out, it's not going to work out. You know, it usually doesn't work out. Because I've bought into that. I've already copped out, pushed God out of the process and said, I'm not going to be able to do it on my own, and I can't do it on my own. And I'm not allowing him to work through me. So keeping the positive, I think, is so important for us. You know, it's easy for me when someone, like say somebody I sponsor calls me up and they're having a real problem with something. I was going, man, look, you just hang in there and pray, go to meetings, you know. It's going to be okay. You know how you know that the other person's going to be okay? But then when you have the problem, no, man, it's not going to work for me. You know, it definitely ain't going to work for me. I mean, we're a family here. Why don't we apply the things that we apply to our brothers and sisters here to ourselves? I mean, it's so simple, but it's not always easy. It's not always easy. But that's one reason I sit in Narcotics Anonymous meetings. It's because I've got to hear you share with me how you got through this. I've got to hear you tell me I'm going to be okay. I've got to hear you say, God's working in my life, he can work in your life. You know, I don't know about this home study course where people come around for a few years and then they can just maybe go to one meeting a month. You know, I don't know about that. I've been coming around for a few years, and I've got to be in, I need to be really in a meeting every day, and I just about am. I want to be in the center of this program. You know, our book talks about being in the center of the boat, the center of that lifeboat, where we're safe, and we got people around us, you know. I don't want to be out there hanging on the edge, you know, when those big waves comes up and whops me off. You know, I cooperate with God today when I allow him the room to work. So being spiritual, I think, is being flexible. I've always thought I knew what was best for me, and I thought I knew. I told God a few times in my prayers, look, this is the way it should be, you know. I laid out, you know. I do a lot of writing, so sometimes in the morning I write out, now God, this is the way the day needs to go. This is what needs to go down. And he shows me about that, you know. He shows me what it is to be flexible. I mean, to have things coming in from every different direction and going, oh my God, how am I dealing with this? But you know, I guess I'm learning to be a contortionist because I'm allowing God to push me in so many different directions and learn from all those things. Spiritual open-mindedness, believing, knowing that God's working, and being open-minded to the fact that it could be in the strangest way that I ever imagined. It's a strong one, and it's a hard one, but it works. Personally, I have to sometimes be beaten down to where I know that I have no more control, no more power, I can't do it, and I raise my hand and go, I surrender, you know. And it's at that point that I think I'm the most teachable. It's at that point I think that God can work through me the best, is when I say I surrender. Now maybe somewhere down the road I'll learn not to get beat up so much before I say I surrender. You know, maybe one day I'll just wake up and go, God, I really do surrender, and work with me anyway, and I'm going to believe every single moment of the day that it's your will that's happening, and that you're giving me the strength to practice these principles. Instead of reacting, I'm going to stop and take a moment and think about how I can be kind or helpful or loving or honest. You know, driving in here this morning, I drove my car, and you know, you got to pay $3 to get through the parking thing, and I thought, well, now when I go through there, I'm just going to flip one of these old tickets up, you know. And I saved myself $3, and I got up there and I looked at the guy. There's this nice looking guy. I was going, man, what's spiritual about flipping this guy this ticket and saving $3? It ain't. It's no big deal. I mean, this thing with money, you know, I used to worry about money a lot, but I've come to see, man, it's just something that's been freely given to me, and I can freely give back out. The more I give away, the more I get. And I don't know where I get this concept that I've got to hold on to it, and stash it away, and bury it, you know. But that's the way I just grew up that way, I guess, you know. And I've been taught about that. God's taught me about that. You know, the times that I've been hoarding it, you know, He's let it disappear. The times that I've been willing to give it away when people need it, when I see causes in NA, when maybe somebody doesn't have some money, maybe we don't have money to pull off a project, you know, God says, you got some money. What are you going to do with it? The times I've been willing to give it away in places like that, in times like that, man, it's always come back to me 10 times over. So it's becoming spiritual is getting rid of a lot of the old ideas and starting to live one that was foreign to me, and that God is bigger than any problem that I can ever encounter. He can work through me in ways I never imagined, and that I'm going to be okay if I trust Him. And He's not going to leave me out there on a limb that's going to break. He's always going to carry me through. And He's always going to provide for me. And all I have to do is just affirm that each day in my life, in my prayers and in the way I live. And then tell you all about it, and then allow myself to listen to you tell it to me. You know, if we live that, we can be so happy. I've had the best time being here. I just feel like I'm at home with all y'all. The addicts here, it's made me feel so good. I've forgotten about any kind of little weird thing that was going on when I left home. I've forgotten about any sort of thing I might have to encounter when I get back. You know, I just know I'm home, and that the power that is existing here is what it's all about. Boy, I'm grateful to be here with y'all. Thank you.
Thanks, Rogan. I'd like to introduce Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda, and I'm an addict. And I'll just say ditto to what Bryson said. I don't know, he said a lot, you know. I've been thinking a lot before I got up here, you know, when I was asked to speak, and it's like I keep going through my head, you know, what is spirituality? What is spirituality? And do I have any? You know, I don't know, to me, you know, spirituality is something I never had before I got here. You know, I'm real scared up here, too. I don't know, you know, when I got to this program, they told me I could have a higher power in my understanding. And I don't know, when I came to this program, the only thing I prayed for, the only understanding of God that I had was when I was about to OD or something, you know, it was like, God, get me through this and I'll never do it again. You know, and He'd get me through it, and in the next 5 seconds I'd be doing it again. I don't know, I had to come to a completely new understanding of a higher power. You know, it was like I had to come to understanding that my higher power is forgiving. You know, He's not punishing. shaking. I don't know, and that was kind of a relief, because I used to beat myself so bad, and I felt so much guilt for the things I did. It was like I could never have God's faith, and, God wouldn't accept me, and today I know all that's not true. I know I have a higher power, and He's carried me through these rooms. I don't know, spirituality to me is change. It's change of attitudes and actions, like Bryson said. When I came to these rooms, I was real scared, and I'm standing up here today, and I'm real scared. I'm shaking. I don't know, I was real isolated when I first came around. I didn't trust a whole bunch of people. It was like I came to these rooms, and I listened to what y'all had to say. And I wasn't sure if y'all were going home and getting loaded or not. It was like, man, I don't know. I was real scared. I wouldn't fellowship. I wouldn't stay after the meeting. I'd just go to the meeting, and, y'all would tell me to keep coming back, and that's what I did, because I wanted to stop using. I don't know. My first year was real isolated. I didn't trust, and I didn't communicate. People told me to get a sponsor. So I got a sponsor, but I never did call her, and today I do have a sponsor. I got to a point when I had a year clean that I'm tired of this, I'm tired of not trusting, and I'm tired of the same thing, tired of the same isolation. And today, I have a lot of people that I sponsor a few people, and a lot of people ask me to sponsor them when they first come in, and they don't call, and I don't want them to go through what I went through, so if they don't call, I tell them they need to find somebody else. I don't know, sponsorship to me is real spiritual. It's, it's trusting another person enough to tell them who I am, and sponsoring people is real important because I get a lot out of it, and it's really great that a person could trust me enough to tell me what's going on with them. I don't know, the only thing I'd pray to God, today I'm learning not to pray for what I want, but to pray for His will. I don't know, a couple of months back I was praying to win the Florida lottery, and, before I called, I prayed. I said, God, please, I'm on the 9th step, and it's like there's a lot of financial amends I need to make, and so, yeah, I did. I prayed, and I dialed a number, and I won. I won $4. It's like, all right. It was like, okay, okay, now I know this, this is not the way this is going to go. I don't know, a lot of the time, I've learned today, my higher power is somebody, I could curse them out, and when I'm angry, I could share that anger with it. It's like that's something I never knew before I got here. I thought that, well, I'm not supposed to curse, I'm not supposed to get angry at my higher power, and today it's like, if I can't get angry with Him and share my feelings with Him, it's like it's not my higher power. I don't know. It's really neat what you people have given me, I'm glad they didn't say this was a religious program and I had to think as a higher power this certain way, because I'd have a real problem with that, because I have a real problem with people telling me what to do. If you tell me what to do, I tend to do the opposite. If you make suggestions to me and tell me I have choice, I can take a choice of what to do, and like, that's okay with me. I don't know. I don't know, spirituality is so much, it's the people in these rooms, it's listening to y'all, and, it's like my higher power speaks through y'all, it's caring and it's sharing, You know, it's a special feeling I get inside when a newcomer picks up a key tag, you know, or when anybody picks up a key tag. You know, and like Bryce, you know, it's listening to my heart instead of my head. You know, it's trying not to be judgmental. You know, a lot of times my addiction tells me all kind of stuff. You know, it judges people, and you know, it's trying to listen to the inside and listen to my heart and not my head. I don't know. You know, it's a real change for me to be up here speaking. You know, I don't share a lot at meetings, you know, but I listen. You know, it's still real hard for me to share because I don't know, I feel like people have so much more to offer than I do, you know, and that's just my addiction talking. I don't know, not sure if I could talk for 20 minutes. I don't know, and, you know, it's the love that I found in these rooms. You know, when I walked into these rooms, people hugged me, you know, and that's something I never had before. You know, it was like, there wasn't, love in my family was kind of supposed to be understood. You know, in this family, y'all hug me, and y'all tell me y'all love me. You know, and that, I don't know, I think that's a lot what made me keep coming back too. You know, is y'all made me feel a part of. You know, something I never was. I don't know, it's I'm not sure we're 20 minutes. I keep looking at my watch. I don't know, you know. You know, it's honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. You know, before I came to this program, I didn't know too much about honesty. You know, I didn't know about sharing my feelings. You know, and to me, that's a big part of honesty is being honest with myself. You know, because that's real hard. It's, you know, when I first came around, they used to call me Smiley because I hide behind my smile so much. You know, everybody would ask me how I was doing, and I'm fine. You know, as before I found out what fine meant. You know? Is that? I don't know. You know, I came here and I really wanted this program. You know, what got me here was kind of like a spiritual awakening. You know, it was like after a lot of my youth, before I got here, I used for 9 years, and the last 3 years were real isolated. You know, people got in the way of my using. And after about 2 or 3 days of using, you know, sitting on the floor of my living room, and I don't know, the phone rang, mother calling to see if I was going to work because I work for my family. And I got up and I told her, yeah. And, you know, I got up and I took a shower, and it's like I couldn't feel clean. And it was something that woke up inside of me when I got out to shower. And I get real scared because it's this fear that I feel that keeps me clean. You know, it was like something woke up inside of me and said, "Where's Linda?" You know. And I don't know, it was then I knew that I needed help or I was going to kill myself. You know, it was one or the other. You know, and that's when I called, and it felt like the longest day, you know. I don't know, I called my brother who happened to be in this program, and it seemed like forever him getting there, you know, and he took me to this treatment center, and I don't know, they introduced me to Narcotics Anonymous there, and these people just came, and they kept telling me to come back, and they hugged me, and they told me it'd be okay. They told me not to get into a relationship. So I was there a week, and I got in the treatment center. I got into a so-called relationship. And, you know, I thought this would make me okay. This was going to make things okay, you know. And after being in that, after checking out of that treatment center after being clean for 60 days. I went back out and I used with this guy. You know, and it took that one day of using to bring me back to that waking up and looking in the mirror and not knowing who I was. You know, and I went that night to a meeting, you know, and I've been here ever since. No. I don't know, that's something else this program's taught me, is that people can't fix me. People can't change me. And it's taught me that I'm powerless over people, you know, and I had a real big problem with that. You know, when I first come around, I went around and I announced, I wanted everybody I knew to come to this program, and I found out it doesn't work that way. No. I don't know, it's teaching me how to communicate, you know, and that's something I never knew how to do before, you know, it's giving me friends, and that's something I never had before. You know, and sometimes it's still rough, you know, it's like, instead of communicating, I'd just rather say, forget it, I won't have anything to do with you anymore. You know, and today I'm learning, instead of doing that, you know, because automatically my defense comes up, a wall comes up, and I want to say, well, y'all go ahead, you know, go get screwed, I don't want to have anything to do with you. You know, and today I'm learning that I don't have to be that way. You know, that I can communicate with people. You know, and it's okay to tell people what I feel. You know, and that my feelings are mine, and they are my feelings, and they do matter. You know, it's something else that this program's given me is some self-worth. You know, today I'm okay, you know, and I'm learning how to love myself instead of beating myself. I don't know, I'm not much of getting on my knees and praying, and, you know, that's why when they first told me to speak on spirituality, it was like, well, you know, I'm not this big spiritual giant, you know, I don't have a halo over my head, I don't get down on my knees a whole bunch, you know, but every day I do get up and I ask my higher power to keep me conscious that I am an addict and that I am powerless over my addiction and I'm powerless over people, places, and things, you know, and to be conscious of him, you know, and this helps me get through the day, you know, and I don't have to be in any special place to be with my higher power, you know. It's like he's with me all the time, you know, and some days he's not, you know, some days I forget about him, you know, and it's these days that I make it rough, you know, it's these days that I choose to be in my shit, you know. I don't know, the things that make me feel good are the little things, you know, it's like it's looking at the sky and knowing, you know, that I'm alive today, you know, and that I have a choice, you know. I don't know, you know. It's 15 minutes, it's pretty good. I don't know, I know I'm grateful to be here. You know, it's a real privilege to get up here and speak. And it's okay, you know, I've been praying a lot since before I got here. You know, I've procrastinated on how I'd be shaken up here and how I wouldn't have anything to say. You know, and it's been okay. You know, I don't know, I've been getting a lot of support from the people in my area, and they've been teasing me a lot, and and I don't know, it's getting me real nervous, and I was scared, but it's like it's okay. You know, I know they love me today, and I love them, and they're real important to me. I don't know. That's about all I have. I got close. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks, Linda. That was great. And now we have Bryce to share.
everybody. My name's Bryce, if I can spit that out. And I'm an addict. Yeah, I'm an addict, too. Gosh, it's great to be here. It's great to see all my friends here. There's so many people I know and so many people I don't know that just are my friends, and I know that. I'm just so grateful to be clean today in NA. I just have woken up, actually. I work evenings, and I don't usually go to bed till 2 or 3, and last night I didn't want to get out of my routine, so I didn't go to bed till 2 or 3, and I had to wake up about 3 hours earlier than I usually do. So I was still sort of in my meditation until a few minutes ago, and I started freezing to death. Just must be the fright, right? So spirituality. When I was asked to do this, I was kind of like, gosh, what's spirituality, you know? And I started thinking about it more than I normally do. And that's one of the things that I like about sharing, is that it makes me think about things that I don't normally have to think about. And so it makes me grow. And so whatever comes out of all this, I know I will have grown some. And hopefully God will speak through me in some way so that somebody here can get something that I have, or something that God's given me. And I've kind of come to understand what spirituality is for me, and maybe some of you can relate to it. So spirituality is definitely a process. It's definitely a journey, a lifelong kind of journey of exploration. I think that most of us are spiritual seekers, and that's why we're here. That we were seeking ways to connect up with a higher power, connect up with something in the universe that had the answers that we wanted. And we wound up turning to drugs somewhere along the line to find that. And as a result of that, we wound up here where we truly can find all the answers, if we just keep looking for them. And maybe that's not in this lifetime or anything like that. It's certainly not going to be this week or in the first, I can speak for the first 7.5 years, and I know that I don't get all the answers then. It doesn't happen overnight. It really is a process. And it starts real early in your life. It started real early in my life anyway. I know that when I was young, I got a lot of understandings from my parents about what spirituality was, and I didn't know that that's what I was getting, but I was getting a lot of images and a lot of information about life in general, and about God, and about just the way life is. I think there's something about spirituality that's unseen. There's something about spirituality that's seen. There's something that's a real tangible stuff that happens in your life that relates to spirituality. It's like when I was young, I remember going to church and just having absolutely no idea what this God thing was all about and why we were even there. And that's not even real young. It's like I remember I lived with a lot of different people when I was young, different relatives, aunts and uncles, and so I got a wide range of different denominations. And being confirmed in one particular religion and going to these classes, and it was all about salvation, I suppose, and things like that. I just had absolutely no idea what this meant to me in my life. It's like it had no meaning. I think that the training that we get in spirituality is something that we have to come to on our own almost. It's like we have to find our own God. We have to find our own understanding about what spirituality is, or what God is, or what the meaning of life is. And it's real exciting to do that, but it takes a long time, at least based on my experience. I wanted to touch on a few things in my past while I was using, because I think that using was seeking, those answers and seeking the solutions, and I think hallucinogenics is real evident, like we're off somewhere, and a lot of us probably use that as a rationalization to continue using. We were on a spiritual journey and we were just finding God. I never really did that, but it made some sense. I didn't do hallucinogens very much, so that probably had something to do with it. But somewhere, I guess I was in my early 20s, and nothing was working for me. My life was just totally unmanageable at that time. It was about 3 years before I came into recovery, and I found religion in my early 20s, and I joined a church and started doing all the things that a good churchgoer does, or doing all the things that a good Christian does, at least what I thought. And it was real good for me in some ways, and it was real interesting in a lot of ways. But I became very, very compulsive and obsessive about my religion, and did it in a way that was, like the way I did drugs. I mean, it was like a transference of my addiction from one place to another, and I was trying to do all these things to make myself worthy in God's eyes. I was trying to be the kind of person that God wanted me to be instead of being myself and letting God shine through me. I had a kind of a screwed up perception about what God was. I was kind of like Linda, about the getting angry at God. I just felt like there's no way you can get angry at God because God does all these things for us. Life is such a gift and it's so wonderful, and God has given us all this. And how can you be mad at God? But it's like, how can you be mad at your parents, I mean, your parents brought you into this world and gave you all that they gave you, and regardless of how much they gave you or even how much they didn't give you, the fact that we're alive today has everything to do on them. And how can you be mad at them? I've found in my recovery that I can be mad at my parents, and it's been very healthy for me to be mad at them, and I can be mad at God. And I've gone through periods where, what is this fucking mess that you've gotten me into here? It's like life just really, really sucks. I mean, sometimes that's just the way it is. Sometimes life just feels like it really, really sucks, and there seems to be no solutions at times. I know I have enough experience today to know that this too shall pass and all that. It's going to be okay tomorrow, and just hang tough and get with people and all that. But I can be angry about some things today, and certainly can be angry with my God. I know that He's big enough to handle it. So I had tried to find God through religion and had no success. I guess it's like, we say easy does it. Remember, easy does it. Give yourself a break. And I never heard that. I never heard that outside here. I've always been just so very hard on myself that I need people like you to say it's okay and to give me a hug and to tell me it's all right and that I don't have to be perfect. And I'm not going to be perfect. And that's real, real important. Things just don't happen overnight. Things just don't happen overnight at all. And, I know when I had 90 days, I thought I had all the answers. And then when I had 6 months, I knew I didn't have all the answers. And then I had 9 months, and I had them all again. And at about 3 years, I had all the answers. At about 5 years, my life just fell apart. For 2 years, it fell apart. And, it's like now, I mean, I know I don't have all the answers. And I never will. I mean, as I grow in recovery and as I grow in my relationship with God, I'm better able to ascertain, things and make better decisions and all. But it's like, answers I don't have. So it's all an exploration. It's all a journey, the spiritual thing, and it's like learning what works for you is the important thing. Learning what works for me is the important thing. I've heard a lot of things about how to do things, and I've tried some of them. Maybe 10% of all that I've heard I've tried, and maybe 1% of that's worked. I didn't come into this fellowship the most willing person. I didn't get on my knees very often for a long time. I still don't get on my knees very often. That's just not the way that I pray. That's all right. I didn't go to 90 meetings in 90 days. I didn't go to very many meetings at all for the first couple of years. And that's not like, a suggestion to anyone. But worked for me. I've never been one to take directions very easily, and I'm sure that some of you can relate to that. And it's like having people tell me what to do has never gone over real well, and so I've like chosen to be around. I've chosen sponsors based in part on that because I can't deal with someone saying you do this and that's the way it's going to be, because it's like a give and take. It's just like God. He's not up there saying this is the way it is. Like when I was going to church, it's like you're supposed to have short hair or something, right? It's like long hair is not good. I mean, does that make sense? That didn't make sense to me then, but it didn't matter that it didn't make sense. Well, it's okay for things to make sense today. It's really okay. And So learning what works and learning what works here and now. There's something in the text that talks about that. It's about what's appropriate at one time may not be appropriate at another, and it's learning what works here and now and having God lead us to that. And that's real powerful. So, learning and getting an understanding of all this, for me, has, or not has as much as does today, center around the steps and my working the steps. And my working the steps is kind of like my going to meetings and the other things that I've done in recovery. Working the steps didn't come for me overnight. It took me 2.5 years to work the fourth step. And it took me like another 3 years to work a fearless and thorough fourth step. And it's taken me a while to get into it's taken me a while to get into the steps. And I don't think that's all that unusual. I think that a lot of us sit in meetings and go, gosh, how do these people know all this about the steps, and listen to all this they're saying. I know I did that for years. I was just in awe of people and the way they could share. And, I was comparing my insides with their outsides. I was comparing what they were sharing with the way I feel about things, and it just doesn't cut it. It just doesn't work. I've seen lots of people come and go that could talk this stuff real well, and talking it just doesn't get it. So I can be honest in talking about how I work the steps or how I sort of came to go into meetings and how things have changed. I mean, they've changed drastically. I went from an addict who went to a number of fellowships for a number of years, doing anything that seemed to work or make sense, to someone who became very committed to Narcotics Anonymous and dedicated a whole lot to it and became very, very dedicated to this program. But it's like didn't happen overnight, So the steps have become a real focus point, a real focal point for my spiritual journey. Just recently I've been going through some changes or looking at some changes in my career and my job and in that portion of my life, and just feeling real scared about it. I still feel real scared about it. I feel real unsure about what I want to do. I know that I want to do something different than I'm doing. I'm just not sure what it is, and there's a whole lot of fear in all that. And I was talking to someone about it, and it all came down to a spiritual dilemma where I was at a place where I wasn't trusting God with my life. Where, like, if I fell down, I still just wasn't sure that He was there to pick me up. My experience tells me that He's always going to be there, and the experience that I see in you tells me that, but I just somehow couldn't grasp it, So it's like, well, look at the second step and trust in it, and trust in the third step. And there's a lot of freedom in that. There's a lot of freedom in trusting in the third step, and in making that decision to turn my will and my life over to God's care, whoever He or she may be. I can be real okay and be real comfortable in life and live with real freedom with myself and not having to be concerned about every little thing. And when things come my way, when whatever it is, from whatever source, when they come my way, I can take them in and check it out and see if it's going to have anything for me. Instead of limiting myself, because I've spent my whole life limiting myself in so many ways. It's like I'm all about freedom today and not limiting myself. And the third step really is powerful there. And the fourth and sixth, or the fourth through the seventh, really, it's kind of where I've been for the last year. I worked a fifth step back in April, and I had been working on a fourth step for far too long before that. But I finally did it and worked a fifth step and went into the sixth step. And just so much has come up out of all that. So much in getting to know myself and my values and what my values are and what my spirituality is and what life is to me instead of what I think it should be. I think that's one of the things that the fourth step does for us. It gives us kind of an outline of ourselves, and we get an opportunity to see ourselves in a way we never have before. And through working that, this last time in particular, it's the third fourth step I had done, but it was much deeper than the other ones in a sense that I was just able to get much deeper than I ever had before. That makes sense. And then working the sixth step and working through that has just brought up so much stuff. I've really had to stand on my principles and on my values in ways that I haven't had to before. It's like I haven't had to make the kind of decisions that I've had to make even this year. And it hasn't been anything really earth-shaking. It's just been a lot of things of a very personal nature, and things that I can say, well, this is my principle. These are my values. This is the way I relate to this principle, whatever it is, and I can base my decisions on that instead of just wondering what to do about everything. Not that I just do that. There's a lot of sponsor involvement and a lot of my big decisions, and a lot of involvement from God, but I don't have to be like stifled in midstream wondering what to do nearly as often as I used to. And so the steps are real important in this, and the steps are real important in this program of recovery, and the steps of Narcotics Anonymous are the answer to all my problems, and I know that. And I'm real glad to be at a place where I'm dedicating a lot more energy into the steps than I ever have before. But sometimes it's still a hit and miss proposition, It's like, working on my sixth step, my sponsor gave me a lot of things to write on for my sixth step, and it's like, come on, give me a break, It's like I'm supposed to get up every day and write this. It took me 7 years, and just by way of some kind of miracle, after 7 years, I was able to meditate every day, and I've been doing that daily now for the last 8 months in a way that I've never been able to do it before. I've meditated for a few months here, a few months there, and then stopped, maybe even for 6 months I've done it, but never like I've been able to do it here recently, and I think that it's just been as a result of where I've been going in my steps. That was one of the reasons. It's like doing these early morning things is nice. I had the opportunity to speak at a convention a few months ago, and it was a Sunday morning meeting, and I was not looking real forward to it, in a sense, because I was frightened, scared to death. And but it was early Sunday morning, and so I didn't quite get up and real bright and awake, and so I was much more into the meditative state of mind, which is very helpful when I'm speaking. And that's what's kind of nice about this morning. I really did feel almost asleep until about 5 minutes before I got up here. So what else did I want to say? Growth. That's really where the steps have played a big role in, at least where I can see it, is the steps playing a role in my spiritual growth. And yet, even when I'm not doing things, opportunities are in my life for me to grow spiritually. Even when I was out there using, there were a lot of opportunities for me to grow spiritually. And even when I was out there using, God was certainly taking care of me. But growth's not fun, and growth's not easy, and growth sucks. It does in many ways. And when I was talking about, I mentioned earlier that for a couple years almost, like my 5th and 6th year clean, or was it my 6th and 7th year clean? I guess it was my 6th and 7th year clean. I had a real rough time. I was going through a lot of things, going through a marriage that didn't work, going through a lot of relationship issues, going through issues that I never had even thought that I had before, and it was very, very painful. And I needed that. As painful as it all was, I needed that. I needed that to get where I'm at today with those issues. And, I'm not cured of all that. But nonetheless, the pain seemed to be a necessary ingredient for me to work on it, or it brought a lot of issues. The pain that I was going through brought stuff up in a way that I had to deal with them. There was no avoiding them. I couldn't get out of it. It was like, it's either use or go back out or try something else, because this stuff just isn't working. My life was falling apart, or at least it seemed like it was. And I think that's real normal for our lives to be falling apart, or at least for them to seem like they are. And the pain, I really don't think that we have to suffer. And perhaps if I was more willing, these things would go easier, but somehow I just don't think so. I think that the pain's necessary and we have to go through it. And so I'm grateful for that in a way. I don't like it a whole lot, but the benefits on the other side of it have been just phenomenal. it's like I've been on like a pink cloud for the last 6 months, and perhaps I needed that after 2 years of what I was dealing with, but it's all been worth it, and it continues to be. So it's really, a life based on spirituality is a life of growth, and it always will be. I'm sure that I'll continue to go through things, and things will continue to hurt, and I get better perspectives on that at times. At times I lose those perspectives, but I know it's all going to be okay. And I still need you to tell me that, but it's like closer to the surface today. Responsibility is another thing that I wanted to touch on. I kind of like when I was asked to do this, I thought, okay, shit, what am I going to talk on? So I started thinking about the things that were important to me in my spirituality and kind of broad topics, and I've gotten to a place where I realize that I just don't have everything to say all the time, and so I think about things before I say them, It's like, it's not like when I'm telling my story, it seems to all come fairly naturally, but talking about spirituality, it's like, well, gosh, these people might really want to hear something that's worth hearing. So with spirituality comes responsibility, and I think that as we grow spiritually, our responsibilities grow. And there's a lot of things that are like, it's like all spiritual responsibilities. Life is a spiritual responsibility. Life is a spiritual thing for me. But there's some things that it's like real easy to see, like giving it away. You only keep what you have by giving it away. So I really put a lot more effort into giving it away in ways that are a lot different than they used to be. I used to, even though I'd say I didn't, I used to have this idea that all of the service work that I did was really like me giving it away. And on some level, all that service work that I do is giving it away, but it's not the kind of giving it away that I need to primarily involve myself with. What I really need to be involved with is 12-step work. As a result of these steps, we try to carry this message. And carrying this message isn't sitting in committees and talking about all the wonderful things that we might do. It really isn't. I can assure you I've spent years, I think, sitting in committees talking about and working on these wonderful things that we were going to do, and oftentimes these wonderful things never amounted to anything. And that's been unfortunate at times, but nonetheless, it's like my, sharing one-on-one with an addict at a meeting or working with guys that I sponsor. And that's been real vital for me, is working with guys that I sponsor. I've gotten to a place where for a long time I didn't know what the sponsorship kind of thing was. I didn't have a sponsor until I had 2.5 years. I used him. He was a spiritual giant. He had a lot of clean time, and we just couldn't connect. And then I got another one a year later who also had a lot of clean time and I just couldn't connect with. And it wasn't until I had about 5 years clean that I got a sponsor I could really connect with. And as a result of that relationship, I've been much more able to connect with sponsees, and now I have a lot more sponsees than I ever had before, and it's a real responsibility when I take on a sponsee that I'm going to work with them. And sometimes that's very difficult. I tend to run my life very fast, I guess you might say. I tend to do far too much. I still haven't gotten to where I have a total balance in my life. I have a lot more balance than I had a few years ago, but it's like I'm still real busy, and I have to like budget my time almost. It's not really like that, but it's like I know that when I have the opportunity to do so, I'm going to spend time with these guys I sponsor. And like I came down with a guy this weekend that I sponsor, and we've been able to share a lot. And it's really been beneficial for not only him, but for me and for his sponsees too, I'm sure. It's just, giving it away and continue to giving it away. But it's also like responsibility and decisions, because, they say that our best thinking got us here, and that's true, but it's like we have minds, we have the ability to discern things. We've been given a lot of information, and we can make decisions today that are pretty good sometimes. And we can take responsibility for those decisions. We can ask for help and ask for guidance in those things, but it's not like, well, my best thinking got me here, so I'm not going to think. When I first got here, I used to think, well, this is crazy. These guys, it's like a big cop-out. Everybody's talking about not thinking. I mean, I was a little bit too much in my head. I thought that I could think my way out of anything, and I know that's not the case today. But, like making decisions is a responsibility that I have to accept today. And in doing that, it's like I've gotten to a place where, fortunately, I know that I don't have to become emotionally involved in that. I don't have to become emotionally involved in problems. And that is a relief. Because I've just seemed to have been thrust in situations where there's a lot of emotionalism around problems that I seem to be involved in some way. It's like, thank God I do not have to live with that, I mean, like I can deal with it in a way that isn't emotional. I don't have to attach myself to it. There's real freedom in that. So I'm real grateful for that, because I have always lived on that emotion and always kind of got some energy from it. It's a sick kind of thing where I just couldn't calm down enough, to realize the gifts in things and that the problems had gifts in them. And I was always looking at all the problems instead of the solutions and such. So that's been real nice. And it's just all a gift. Gosh, isn't this beautiful? Isn't this convention a gift? Recovery is just such a gift. Life's such a gift. And God, I know, was with me when I was using Him. It's very evident in my life, because I practically killed myself numerous times and never did. I always wound up still alive. And I'm real convinced that God was always there taking care of me when I couldn't take care of myself. There's just no doubt about that. And He still is. And that's a real gift. And it's sometimes I know that when I become complacent, it has a lot to do with that gratitude or that lack of gratitude in my life, and the fact that I'm just not feeling good or feeling grateful about the things that are going on. I was kind of going, last night I had a brief touch of it. I was over at SeaWorld, and it was raining. I was going, what in the hell am I doing here? All right? Can anybody relate to that? And so I go over there, and I'm soaking wet, and went to eat at the barbecue, and I go, what am I doing eating this barbecue? One of the things that I've done in the last year is started to take care of myself in ways that I didn't used to, like eating right and trying to sleep right and all. And that barbecue was not like my idea of eating right. I got to the end of it, and they were running out of anything that I could eat and even feel halfway good about. And I was really not feeling good about just that in general. And then I ran into someone and started talking to him and started talking about what a gift it all was and how wonderful this convention is, and just what a beautiful experience staying clean is and living is. And so I felt better, and it's like, there again, just look on the bright side and don't feel so bad about it. It's just a little rain, It's like down in the dumps. So it's all a gift. It's like the grace of God is just overwhelming. It's awesome. He just, or she just, fills us as much as we allow Him to. And it's something like, I used to think that it came from without. Now I know it comes from within. There's a place inside me where I know God dwells, but God dwells everywhere for me. And I'm real grateful for that. I'm real grateful for getting in touch with that place inside me where I can go to for strength. And it's like I can take care of myself today. I know that there's a God within me. I don't have to just wonder what I'm going to do. And there's peace in that. And I'm just real grateful to be here. And it's real good to see everybody. I love y'all. Thanks a lot.